All right. What is up, ladies and gents? Jason Ward, Ward's Way to Fitness here. Said I would show off my Deadpool Tacos t-shirt before we got going today. Unfortunately, today's topic is keto, on which you probably can't eat tacos. Not real tacos, anyway. So today I want to get into what keto is, what are the benefits, and talk a little bit about ketosis and how it works, and then delve into some of the pros and cons of keto dieting, and talk a little bit about ketoacidosis and keto supplementation, and like what my thoughts are on all of that. All right, so let's get started. All right, so it is What Diet Is This Wednesday, and today's topic is keto. So, what is the keto diet? So, the original keto diet was introduced in the 1920s or 1930s, I believe, as a intervention for folks with epilepsy, specifically children. So there was some research done that found that when they fed these people a very low carbohydrate diet, that they saw improvements in their epileptic symptoms. And so that became a treatment for a long time until drugs were introduced that could do the same thing. And then the drugs became the primary use for preventing or dealing with those diseases. And just in the last probably 10 to 20 years, keto started to make a bit of a resurge again. There's a lot of new research. They're coming up with supplements, stuff like that. But essentially, the original keto diet was about 85% fat, 10 to 15% protein, and less than 5% carbs. And so obviously, this is radically different from what most of us are eating. This style of dieting tends to lead to a process called ketosis, and this is the basis of the keto diet. You want to achieve a state of ketosis. And what that means is that your body is going to produce ketones. And ketones are just an energy substrate. Some people are calling it the fourth macronutrient. As I've mentioned in previous talks, I believe water is the fourth macronutrient. So maybe we can call ketones the fifth. But it is just another energy substrate that your body can utilize to fuel your brain, to fuel your muscles, to fuel most of your organs. The liver is an exception there, so the liver cannot use ketones for energy, but it does help produce them. So once you achieve a state of ketosis, essentially you are carb restricted for a long enough period of time, your body will upregulate how much ketones it produces. And there are a whole host of claimed benefits that come along with that. And I'm going to delve a little bit into some of the risks and benefits, but I don't really want to talk forever about this, so I'm not going to get too into the sciencey details for you. All right? So, pros for a ketogenic diet. So, it's high fat and a moderate protein intake. You tend to be fairly satiated with these types of foods. So a lot of people who do keto report that they feel more satisfied after their meals, they're less hungry between meals, and this makes sticking to their diet a little bit easier. So that's a clear pro. This is not true for everyone though. Some people continue to have problems with satiation and that sort of thing, and I think that's probably got something to do with how we're all different. And some people can probably upregulate how many ketones they produce more easily than others and make better use of those ketones than others. So, but that is a potential benefit. So ketones are an alternative fuel source. So your brain can use it. Like I said, your muscles, most of your organs with the exception of the liver. Okay. There are some reports that you'll have improved cognitive function. So I mentioned at the start of the video that this diet was originally prescribed for people with epilepsy, which is a neurodegenerative disorder. So it does have an impact on our brains. Some people lay claim to the idea that the ketones are your brain's preferred fuel source. I don't think we have enough information to really say that's true or not, but it is an alternative fuel source that can be used. And your brain will slowly shift to utilizing more and more ketones the more keto adapted you become. The other potential benefit is a more stable blood sugar. So you don't get your ups and downs that you see with a lot of diets that include carbohydrates and sugars and that sort of thing. So that can be beneficial, particularly for people who are diabetic, pre-diabetic, or have insulin resistance. So there is a lot of potential benefit there. Those are the ones that I think we can say with some certainty are actually there. Anything further, and you're getting into things that I'm not so sure we can say for sure are true. All right. So what are some of the downsides with keto? So the cons. You typically get what they call the keto flu at the start of a ketogenic diet. And basically what this is like a low energy. Some people get headaches, muscle cramps, dizziness. There's a whole host of things that can happen. And this usually happens in the first 2-3 weeks, which is about how long it takes for our bodies to start producing the ketones on its own and start utilizing them more efficiently. And as I said, if you get past that point, you can probably continue to do that diet near indefinitely. But again, is this a lifestyle that you're going to want to maintain? It's going to take that time to adapt to this new style of eating and for your body to start producing the energy that it needs. Some people do report that carb cravings go up significantly when they're not really eating any. This can be problematic, obviously, for adherence to your diet. So if you're one of those people who just can't seem to get into ketosis, then it could be problematic for you to follow a ketogenic diet. Oxalates is another one. So most of the vegetables that you are allowed on keto are green. And most of our green vegetables tend to have a higher oxalate content than most other foods. And if you get too many oxalates built up in your system, you can get kidney stones, oxalate poisoning. There are potential problems that come along with high intakes of oxalates. So something to be aware of. Electrolyte imbalances is another potential problem with keto. If you are not paying attention to your sodium, potassium, magnesium, these minerals can start to come out a lot more easily, and that can lead to a lot of what we call the keto flu symptoms. If you do supplement with appropriate amounts of sodium, potassium, magnesium, then you can sort of mitigate some of the keto flu symptoms. It's not necessarily going to solve the problem, but it can help alleviate so that you can get through that initial hump. So that's kind of like the pros and cons. It's pretty even in my opinion. It really comes down to what is your preference. Do you enjoy eating high fat foods, or do you prefer to eat more carbohydrate? I do feel that the ketogenic diet focuses too much on being in ketosis. That's like you always want to be in ketosis. And your body can shift in and out of ketosis as it needs to once you become keto adapted. So I think the better thing to shoot for is a state of metabolic flexibility where you can shift from carb-centric energy use to a more fat-centric energy use. And the ability to shift between those two different energies is important, I think, for good health and longevity. So there are a number of different ways that you can achieve ketosis. So fasting is one. If you have an extended fast, 24 plus hours, your body will enter into ketosis in that situation. Again, as I said, obviously, if you go for long periods of time while restricting carbohydrate, your body will enter into a state of ketosis. And there's also intense exercise. If you burn through enough of your glycogen stores, your body can enter into ketosis in order to allow itself to continue to fuel activity. So that's just a few of the different ways. So one of the things that people often talk about with ketogenic diets, and I call it kind of a con, is ketoacidosis. And I just want to tell you right now, it's probably not something you need to be concerned about. So ketoacidosis is typically only problematic for diabetics, and specifically like type 1 diabetics, but it can happen with type 2s as well. And it's a situation in which you have high insulin and high ketones at the same time, which typically speaking in a healthy individual just can't happen. But in a diabetic who is injecting additional insulin or who is not properly clearing the ketones out of their system, then they can reach this state of ketoacidosis, and this can be problematic and even deadly. So for most people, you do not need to worry about that. And if you're being properly monitored by a physician, you can probably even be a type 1 diabetic and doing a keto diet with great results. It really does come down to paying attention to things, all right? But you do not need to worry about ketoacidosis unless you are a diabetic. So let's just get rid of that idea right now. So one of the big reasons I think keto is so popular right now is keto supplementation. There are a number of companies out there claiming incredible benefits from taking what they call exogenous ketones. So you have exogenous or endogenous, right? Exogenous is outside of the body, endogenous is inside of the body. So exogenous ketones is basically you drinking or eating ketones in some fashion. Most of the time it is in a drink, and you can get ketone salts or ketone esters. The esters seem to be more promising than the salts, but they're not very palatable, so they're not very marketable right now. Most of what you're seeing on the market is ketone salts. And this is usually in the form of beta hydroxybutyrate, which is one of the ketones your body can produce inside of you, right? So the endogenous ketones. There are a couple of others, but BHB is the one that most people tend to talk about, and it is the one that they find in most of these ketone salt supplements. They usually bind it with sodium, potassium, magnesium ions to help you deal with that keto flu. So these supplements can actually improve your keto flu symptoms at the beginning of a ketogenic diet. So something that you could consider, but they are also awfully expensive. A lot of the ketone supplements out there have a very high price tag associated with them, and I don't personally feel the research is conclusive enough at this point to justify spending that much money. Perhaps in another 5 to 10 years, we'll have more research, we'll have better product, and we'll have more evidence that these things are doing what they claim to be doing. But most of it is just marketing and clever use of not the real science that's behind it, or dropping names like Dominic D'Agostino. He's probably one of the leading researchers in ketone supplementation. He currently owns the patent on exogenous ketones, I believe. So don't fall for those clever marketing schemes. Honestly, you probably don't need keto supplements. Even if you are following a keto diet, there are some potential benefits for exercise performance and that sort of thing from exogenous ketones that is still being researched. Again, none of it is truly conclusive, but it has been shown to potentially improve athletic performance, and specifically in endurance, but not even when, and actually in combination with some carbohydrate. So there is some interesting research that is showing that if you take BHB salts and carbohydrate at the same time, that the carbohydrate or the glucose will actually be preferentially sent to the muscles because the rest of the body will use the ketones instead. That is what seems to be the theory behind a lot of the research right now. Whether or not it's true, we'll probably have to wait a few years to really find out as they do more of these studies. All right, so that is our What Is This Diet Wednesday. Hopefully you enjoyed my talk on the keto diet. If you have any questions, post up below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for future content. Have a great day, guys.